You're Not American, the side of undocumented immigrants and immigration that you don't see. My speech today is going to be based off of the article My Life as an Undocumented Immigrant by Jose Antonio Vargas. The link is going to be down below. You're more than welcome to give it a click if you would like to review the article. The article is based off of Mr. Vargas's journey from the Philippines to the United States as an illegal immigrant, as a young illegal immigrant at that. It journeys through his time when he's on the plane to when he gets to his grandparents in California, and it details the successes and struggles that he does have throughout his life as an illegal immigrant. Main points I'm going to go through now. Children are among the many undocumented immigrants in the United States. Most are bought or sent over from their countries of origin to live a better life provided by relatives or grandparents. Most of these children are escaping poverty and crime-ridden areas to be given the chance of a better life, and Mr. Vargas does a great job at explaining that, and he also explains that there's more than 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. When Mr. Vargas first came, he was immediately placed into the 6th grade, where he had to integrate into American society and learn the language and learn the culture. It was a huge learning experience for him. He had to learn American slang and basically how to interact all over again with a new place, in a new place for himself, which can prove challenging, but he enjoyed it. Once he did integrate into American society, he stated that it was something that he fell in love with, the language and just the life. Mr. Vargas had some issues with his legal documents that his grandfather obtained for him, which were not legal at all. They were forged and very illegal. The only thing that he did have was a social security number. So that made it very difficult for him to get a driver's license or to get funding for college, which is what a lot of younger immigrants have issues with. Even children who were born and raised in America, they have issues with getting proper documentation to be able to do all the things that they need to do to survive in America. Most immigrants, especially the young, like I said, they feel the need to have to prove themselves and prove who they are and prove how American they are, which means an erasure of their past and of their culture. They don't put up pictures of their family or their home. They don't speak their language. They try to erase the accent that they have. A lot of immigrants do this so that they fit in better, and so that there's no question as to whether you're American or not. A lot of immigrants have difficulties in maintaining their secrets, especially to the origin, and it takes a toll on their interpersonal relationships as well as their work relationships. Immigrants tend to have very little friends, or they congregate with other immigrants, and their work relationships tend to suffer because they don't trust, and they don't trust someone to keep their secret, and they don't know if they actually outright look like, oh my goodness, I'm an immigrant. And Vargas details that as well in his article. Vargas also details the fear that he had of being found out, so he hid who he was. They sacrificed opportunities so that they're not discovered. Mr. Vargas sacrificed doing stories when he got into the journalist field. He sacrificed doing stories on immigration and immigration policies and deportation and things of that nature because he felt like it would just plaster on his head, and which was a very good use of figurative language that he had, would plaster onto his head illegal immigrant. It would be like a tattoo on his head, and it would show because of his feelings towards it. And a lot of illegal immigrants feel that way, and they fear deportation and jail time. I believe that Mr. Vargas' purpose was to not only tell his story of illegal immigration, but to open up the dialogue and let Americans see the other side. Let Americans see that every illegal immigrant has, or undocumented immigrant has a story, and each story, it may be similar, but it's different. And you can't judge an illegal or an undocumented immigrant just based off of the fact that they are undocumented. There's a lot of things that go behind that, and they try really hard to become an American, and then they do harbor guilt and shame, and they harbor the fear of being found out. And I think he conveys that through this article very, very well, and he conveys how much love that he has for America for giving him the opportunity. And I think that shows exactly what most undocumented immigrants and immigrants that are documented feel. Similarities and differences between he and I am not undocumented, so that is the major difference. But a similarity would be my father, who was undocumented at one point in time, had the same fears and the same issues that he had, that most immigrants have. The language barriers, culturally trying to fit in, fear of deportation, fear of jail time, trying to be as American as possible and put away accents and languages and all the other things that go in with another culture or a subset other than being American. I believe that our worldviews are very similar. I believe that nobody should be judged based on whether they are illegal or legal. I believe that he's a very open-minded man, and I believe that Mr. Vargas just wants to be accepted, and I feel the same way. I feel like being open-minded is a way of acceptance, and we have very, very clear similarities with that. Like I said earlier, I kind of touched on it, is a figurative language that Mr. Vargas used, which was the tattooing of illegal on his forehead. I think that clearly puts a picture in your head of how fearful he was of getting into any debates or topics that included immigration. And I feel like it was just very, very great what he used. The one thing that I do wish Mr. Vargas did more of was use more of that figurative language. I feel like he could have conveyed even more of a point by using more figurative language within the reading. Other than that, I think he did a great job at getting his point across. I feel like it was very well written, and it was just a great article. It was educational. It kind of opened your eyes to a different point of view, and I feel like that was his whole purpose. In conclusion, it was just it was interesting to see how, like, the different stages that an undocumented immigrant can go through, and how they go through the same things that we do, and not only the same things, but they also have different struggles that you would never know of. Like, for instance, the forged documents, or not being able to get funding for college, or even having a hard time applying for college. It's a lot of ththings that you don't see as an American, and you would never know. And so it was a great article to read. So that pretty much concludes my speech. If you have any questions, we are more than welcome to leave them below, and I really hope that you all decide to read the article, but I really think it was a great article. Thank you so much for your time.